We're not the suits that talk football. We are the dudes that know football. And you've just crossed over into the trend zone. Casey here with Dave. We are the football dudes. Dave, are you ready, bro?
Yes, sir. I am quite ready. Let's get this going.
Sweet, baby. You've just crossed over into the trend zone. It's Wednesday, October 9th. We're coming to you from Los Angeles, California. It's a beautiful 75 degrees, Dave. What do you
Ooh,
think?
lovely out, isn't it?
So lovely. Oh, they're just these falls and winters are
Yeah,
just
there's no
so brutal.
flooding, no
Yeah.
hurricanes.
No mosquitoes. We got it pretty good.
Who's got it better than us?
Nobody. And in today's episode, we'll talk about a tailspin leading to the first head coach getting the axe. Will it be a little too late to relax? Some teams are hitting the ejection seat on their QBs. We'll tell you who made the move and who should make the move. We'll talk a little Survivor, our fantasy go back starts of the week, some total fantasy domination, and all of the awesome games coming up in week 6. But Dave, before we get to all that, tell me, you got a tasty nug for the peoples.
Of course I do, Casey. I always bring my nugs with me to share for the people. Week 5, Casey. 9 games decided by one score, 8 points or less, including 6 that featured game-winning score in the final 2 minutes of regulation or in overtime, and 10 games worth in one score in the fourth quarter. As usual, a lot of exciting action. There have been 47 games decided this season by 7 points or fewer, and 41 decided by 6 or fewer. That is, of course, the most ever through week 5 of the season in NFL history. It seems like every year we hit
Those
this new
numbers
mark.
just keep increasing, dude. It's crazy.
It's fantastic. But the NFL, it's always that close. It's such a game of inches. So
It's the best, dude. That is why we love it so much. You know what else we love? The Trend Zone, because it is available for a subscription on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, wherever the hell you get your podcast. Dave, all right, it is time for some top trending stories in the NFL. One that we didn't see coming, one this guy didn't see coming. Robert Saleh, dude, sacked just a few weeks into the Jet season. Very
yeah,
Jet-esque.
very dysfunctional. I mean, well, there's no way to. At 2-3, they're right in the mix of everything there. And Woody Johnson, team owner, goes ahead and fires Robert Saleh. His record not great, 20-36, but we talked about it prior to the show here. Didn't have a lot of great quarterback play there, and in this league, you need quality quarterback play. They finally did have Aaron Rodgers this year available to them, and I don't know that 5 games is a sample size that's worthy of evaluating this guy's ability to be the head coach of the squad. Not to mention, the defense was the better of the 2 units there. And once Salah's gone now, the defensive coordinator who's running Salah's defense, I presume, is now the interim head coach. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They just, they have played pretty good defense.
Yeah.
And he's the guy that gets the axe here.
I mean, I think they shut the Vikings out in the second half of that London game, I'm pretty sure. And while the offense hasn't been great, they have a ton of weapons. They bring in Mike Williams. Obviously, they have Garrett Wilson. They bring in Lazard. Conklin's a pretty good tight end, maybe the best running back tandem in the league. And Aaron Rodgers is still coming back from that Achilles injury. He's 40 years old. It's going to take a little while. So I haven't seen the defense as being the major issue with this team.
The defense is second in yards allowed and 5th in points allowed. So, certainly not their reason for the 3 losses. And even at 2-3, I don't know whoever's fault it is. It's too soon to really.
It's way too soon.
It's almost like, where do you go from here with 11 games left?
Yeah. If I was one of those AFC East teams, I might bring in Salah as a defensive consultant for the rest of the season.
Ooh,
get the Dolphins on the phone or the Bills or whoever, because
nice.
not
inside information.
Yeah, and maybe they should look at what the offense is doing instead of the defense. But here nor there. So if they are looking at the offense, Dave, is there anybody floating around that might be able to help that offense a little bit?
Well, we can connect the dots, Casey, with Devontae Adams, the disgruntled Raider, wanting to, move on from the Raiders for starters, but also sort of hand selecting his favorite two quarterbacks as teams of destination for him. So certainly Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams reuniting could make a lot of sense, especially, if they can give back a piece, an offensive piece to the Raiders. That makes sense. Mike Williams, perhaps, former Charger, and they have Telesco as their GM over there. Just throwing things out there. But there's obviously ways to make it work. And we'll see how much longer the Raiders want to just sit around on Devontae, because as they get closer and closer to that trade deadline, which I believe is November 4th, still got some time right now to sort of play some poker. But at some point, I think you want to move the guy.
And dude wasn't want to be there. They're paying him. It's over. Let's figure this shit out and move on, So
get what you can from him for him. You don't have to make him happy where he lands, but I mean the team that gets him obviously is going to get a good deal this year, but then the next 2 seasons they've got him at a pretty high cap number.
Yeah, and the Raiders paying him about $1 million a week to be disgruntled on the bench. So
right.
Figure it out, Raider. Okay, Dave, it seems like there's been a ton this season. Why don't you go ahead and roll through some of these injuries?
Yeah, with obviously not hitting them all, but certainly hitting some major ones. Aaron Jones of the Vikings, he got a hip injury in London, didn't make it out of that first half. Luckily, Minnesota's coming up on a bye, so that could probably help him get the time he needs to come back. Devon Achane concussed after just a couple of carries, perhaps 17 yards, I believe, in last week's game. They also have a bye coming up in week 6. Ramondre Stevenson, he's got a knee injury for the Patriots there, and he didn't finish the game. Not sure exactly about the timeline there, how significant that one is. Zach Moss for Cincinnati, he's got an ankle injury. So again, not sure if it's a high ankle sprain, perhaps a week 9 return there. So that's it for the running backs, Casey.
What about the receivers? A couple big names on this list, dude. It's brutal.
Big time. I'll tell you what, Nico Collins for Houston, hammy injury, and he also had a hammy in week 3. Don't know if it's the same hammy or not, but when you got that recurrence, or it's the other one, I don't know what, but it's certainly, they put him on IR, so it's significant enough for him to miss the next 4 games there. Michael Pittman Jr. expected to miss multiple weeks with a back injury. Injury reserve, also an option for Michael Pittman. Moving on to tight ends, David Njoku's had a real snake bit season. He's got a knee injury now. He missed several weeks with a high ankle sprain. Now, not sure if he'll what the timeline is on his return.
And what about on the defensive side of the ball? A big Raider on this list, dude.
Ooh, yeah. Well, it started with the Seahawks. Uchenna Nwosu, he's on IR. He's a pretty young, pretty talented young 5th or 6th year guy there. So a bummer for them on IR. Steelers have a lot of banged up guys there. Cordell Patterson, he'll be out with an ankle. Jalen Warren is also has missed some time with the knee injury there. He's doubtful this week. Edge rushers for the Steelers, Nick Herbig, he's got a hammy. Alex Highsmith, he's got a groin. They're not going to play this week against the Raiders either. And speaking of the Raiders, we got defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, their big offseason acquisition. He had surgery to repair a fracture in his foot. That's going to keep him out indefinitely. He'll be on IR. And then the 49ers put safety Huafunga on IR as well with some torn ligaments in his wrist. He'll be out at least a month.
Oh, dang. He's going to miss that Cowboys game in a couple of weeks. That's too bad. Speedy recovery, though. Speedy recovery.
Yes.
I don't like injuries, but
Godspeed.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Those guys won't be doing any dominating, but the guys on this list have made total Fantasy Domination, Dave. Give me a quarterback.
How about Joe Burrow, man? Despite the team's performance, Joe lit it up last week. 392, 5 touchdown passes, just one interception. Man, what a game.
And I would be stoked about this guy, Tank Bigsby, 130 yards and 2 TDs, except I have Travis Etienne, who didn't do anything in that game. So thank you, Tank. Thanks a lot. See what I did there?
All right, up next, Jamar Chase. He got it done with 193 yards receiving and 2 receiving touchdowns for him.
And how about Tucker Kraft for the Luna Tunas, also the Green Bay Packers? He had 88 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, if I would have had Tucker Kraft, I would have decided to play him. So, Dave, let's get to our go back fantasy starts of the week. If you could have made a different decision bright and early Sunday morning, could you, should you, would you get a win?
No, I couldn't have, Casey. All of the dudes that were on my bench were unable to play, with the exception of Brian Robinson, who was questionable up until the point where I realized I should have played him because he was one of the highest scoring guys. Nonetheless, it would not have helped. I was forced to play all the players that I did. And yeah, my team is an absolute mash unit. I've never been this banged up. Almost, I got IR, I got out, I got questionable. There's nobody on my bench healthy.
Yeah, there's nothing I could have done either, but I don't know if that plays. But it says bold action victory over the Foul Boys for the first time. Bold action first career victory against me.
They keep track of that crap?
Yeah, it was bound to happen one of these days. My team is hella banged up right now, too. Got to get through these buys, although I did spend a draft pick on Nick Chubb. It looks like he's getting closer to getting back to action, and then I might have a trade piece to get another receiver in there. And my Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are doing absolutely nothing right now. Patrick Mahomes, the 23rd ranked fantasy quarterback. But other than that,
I don't want to hear it. I got Chris McCaffrey. He hasn't played a snap. I got Cooper Kupp. He's played just over 4 quarters. Those are my 2 top picks. Not to mention Neighbors was 5th overall. He's concussed.
Oh, brutal. It's, the fantasy gods giveth and the fantasy gods taketh away.
Hey,
Speaking of taking away, how about Survivor? 3 strikes, Dave. It was brutal last week. Go ahead and tell me about the most popular correct pick first.
Yeah, the most popular correct pick was Washington beating Cleveland, which is kind of a theme.
Party over here, y'all.
Yeah, right. Who's playing Cleveland Brown, right? And then last week's most popular incorrect pick was the one that burned me bad and gave me my 3rd strike. Seattle over the Giants. That was almost 41% of people in the Yahoo leagues there. Going down.
Dude, there's got to be barely anybody left. I mean, like most of our 3 strikes are gone. I have 1 left. I know like some of our people were out after the 3rd week. Yeah. It has been absolute
5 weeks
carnage,
for me.
Dude.
It's unbelievable with 3 strikes.
Brutal.
Yeah.
All right.
If it was pick one that's wrong, I'd still be in it.
Pick a team that's gonna lose every week. That might be just as hard. That might be something that we think about. It's a bizarro world.
Reverse Survivor.
Yeah. We might have to do that, get a little extra juice on the season next year. I like that idea. Let's put some time into that. All right, Dave, tell America who the best selection to go for this
there's some nice
week.
ones out there. The top one is Houston over New England, but Houston's pretty bang up. That's more than 30%. Philadelphia over Cleveland with the who's playing in the Cleveland Browns theme. That's 21.5%. And then Atlanta over Carolina, another common theme this season. Who's playing Carolina? That's 13.5%. So a lot of good choices there if you're still alive.
Yeah, I have 1 strike, so I plan to use it wisely, but that's what I thought with my first 2, so who knows?
Yep.
But Dave, let's get out of this fantasy realm, all this 3 strikes crap. Yeah, it is time to get to football, baby. It is week 6.
Week 6?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, dude?
Week 6.
Casey, it's slipping away!
Oh. Dude, where does the time go?
I know. Once you get to the beginning of the buys, and you really
Mhm.
start to feel the slippage.
Oh yeah, it is. It is indeed slipping away. We have 4 teams on a bye this week: the Chiefs, the Rams, the Dolphins, the Vikings. 3 of those teams have won Super Bowls, and one of them has not. They've been there, they've lost them, but they have not won. Do you know which team that is?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with the Vikings.
Yeah, correct, sir. Correct. Those poor bastard Vikings. All right, Dave, let's go ahead and get into it. This is a tasty little nug right here. Thursday night football, bro. The San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. And the Niners are 3-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, and the Niners are a banged up squad. We've been talking about injuries as seemingly a common theme here, but even so, we expected more
Mm-hmm.
out of this squad than a 2-3 start to the season. But there they are at 2-3 with an 0-2 divisional record, mind you.
Ooh.
They're coming up off that loss to Arizona in a game that they were winning 23-10 at halftime, and they gave up 14 unanswered in that game. Brock Purdy, not bad with 244 passing yards and a touchdown, but 2 picks, thus his passer rating just 62.1. So not his best showing. Good news, Brandon Ayuk was 8 for 147, which is a pretty awesome game. It's his best game by far. Actually, I think it
Mm-hmm.
top everything he did combined for the rest of the season. Kittle also got in the end zone with a touchdown last week. But this team needs to get back on track badly this week. They cannot afford another loss, especially in the division, which
Mm-mm.
this would be. It would be obviously 0-3 divisionally if they drop this game.
Yeah, that is not good there. And then you flip it over to these Seahawks, who looked like they were coming all the way back to win that game,
Yep.
setting up for the field goal. Uh, Clyde Simmons or whoever, Isaiah Simmons jumps over the line, blocks that field
Blocks it.
goal. Giants take it in for a touchdown. So, what is actually worse, losing to the Giants at home or blowing that huge lead to the Cardinals also at home? Both these teams let like wins just slip away. So, this is a very important game. I know it's early and there's a ton of football left, but
Yeah.
the way, especially the NFC North is playing, I don't
Mhm.
know if there's going to be wild cards in these other divisions. I know the season kind of evens out, but for right now, dude, it's like you better win your division if you really want to get into the playoffs.
No question about it, dude. This is a big one.
All right, let's go back on over to swinging London town, baby. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars, technically at the Chicago Bears, and the Bears are 2.5-point favorites on the
Yeah.
road, but at home.
Jaguars finally got a W last week, KC, to go 1-4, beating the Colts in a shootout, actually. Trevor Lawrence letting it rip, 28 of 34, 371, 2 touchdowns, just 1 pick, a passer rating of 119.5. This is the guy that has really struggled this year
Mhm.
so far. Tank Bigsby, we mentioned already in the fantasy highlights there, over 100 yards and 2 scores. And Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie wide receiver, 5 for 122 and a score, including an 85-yard TD.
Um, I noticed
Pretty
both my fantasy guys, Christian Kirk and Travis Etienne, are absent from the list of Jaguars doing stuff.
Apparently, they did not make my list of highlight players, Casey. I apologize. Uh, Move it to the Bears. The Bears. They've been playing better each week, and their record is 3-2, having beaten Carolina last week in a blowout. Let's go back in time, though. They were handed that first week against Tennessee, where
Mhm.
Tennessee just basically handed the game to them. So 3-2 might be a little bit of an elevated record for them, but they are what you are. What your record says you are. Caleb, not bad with over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game, a 126.2 passer rating for Caleb, and DJ Moore over 100 yards and 2
Mhm.
touchdowns there. So Bears playing better and better. Um, but this is a desperate Jaguars team that they're up against right now, and we saw them finally click a little bit last week. This might be a tighter game, I think, than most people would look at just by looking at the records.
Yeah, and I don't know the last time that the Bears made this trip over there, and Caleb Williams certainly hasn't, as he is a rookie. He has improved his play each week. That Bears defense is absolutely legit, but getting the contributions they got from DeAndre Swift really opened things up last week, and I think Caleb is making improvements. It's a learning process, what you can and can't do in the NFL. So it's an important game for both of these teams.
No doubt. Okay, moving into the regular morning slot of games, Casey, we get things going here with Tampa Bay at New Orleans. The Saints at home are favored by 2 in this one.
Yeah, and these Bucks, man, they played really well on Thursday Night Football. When they got the late interception, you thought that game should have been over. They hand the ball off. Clearly a face mask on Bucky Irving.
Yep.
A holding penalty, should have been offsetting penalties. Instead, the refs missed the face mask and pushed the Bucks out of field goal range. They ended up punting, and what that did was leave the door open for Kirk Cousins to come and do those Bucks like he's done a couple of times this season. But what's interesting here to me, and I'll let you get into the Saints a little bit, is Baker Mayfield versus Spencer Rattler, couple of former Oklahoma Sooners doing battle. And I'm actually stoked to see what Rattler does. I anticipate it being a struggle week 1, but I like that he's going to get up there and get that start because Derek Carr does have that tummy ache.
Yeah, Casey. Saints dropped to 2-3, losing the Chiefs, of course, as you mentioned there, on Monday Night Football last week. Or I just mentioned at least, in the loss. So the Saints were unable to get the ground game going, dude. Just 46 yards on 15 carries there on the ground. And the Saints team, let's go back again, back in time a little moment here. They were 2-0, and they were the highest scoring team in the league after those first 2 weeks. Since then, they've come crashing back down to earth, dropping the last 3 games straight there. 1-1 in division, but a game back of both Atlanta and Tampa Bay there. So it's a pretty tricky situation for these Saints right now, making this a really big divisional game. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, it won't be Derek Carr, who's been playing some pretty good football. He's got a tear in his oblique, also known as a tummy ache. And the Saints will be going with your guy, your former Sooner, Spencer Rattler. He has yet to take a regular season snap. He had a pretty good preseason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows? It's him or Hainer will be his backup, but it was sort of like one guy or the other. Hainer went in last week when Carr came out, but they talked it over. They thought Spencer, they'll go with Spencer, and then it's sort of a week-to-week thing. We'll see how Spencer Rattler can perform.
He had a ton of upside, and he kind of looked like he figured it out once he transferred from Oklahoma. Obviously,
Right.
Caleb Williams came in and took that gig, and I think that maturity process really started taking effect when he moved. So I think he's more ready for this shot than he would have been had he not been through that adversity. Dude's got a live arm. That ball just flies out of there. So it'll be all about the decision making, but it'll be stoked to see those cats go head to head for sure. Oh, and also going back to Monday night real quick, the Saints were in that game against the Chiefs. They had a couple key drops. If those receivers pull that in, that game is a lot more interesting. Even so, they got it down to, 3 points in the fourth quarter? So they're not as far away.
The Chiefs do, unfortunately. Yeah. Sneak out a game.
We see it all the time.
Yeah.
Ugh. This one's a pretty interesting game, Dave. We have the Washington Commandos at the Baltimore Ravens in a battle for Maryland in a plate full of crab cakes. The Ravens 6.5-point favorites in this one, but all we're hearing about is Jaden Daniels with good reason.
Yeah, no question. Commanders here, one of the surprise teams of the early season here in the power rankings. Love them right now. Led by, of course, Jaden Daniels, who's making this case not only for Offensive Rookie of the Year, but who knows, NFL MVP? Who's too soon? Who knows? Too soon. Okay. The excitement in Washington, though, is real. I'll tell you what. After they clobbered the Browns last week, another impressive performance for the QB there, tossing for 238 and a touchdown and an interception, but also rushing for another 82. That part of his game, as long as he can stay healthy and add that component, man, this is a tough team to stop. Also, here's another thing. Eckler, McNichols, and Robinson Jr. all contributed at running back there for a combined 159 yards and 3 TDs, both rushing and receiving. So getting that productivity out of those running backs. They've got some good receivers, as we know. It's a pretty exciting Commanders team. I know you're thrilled.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I hated it when they got rid of the little general because I knew they had the ability to turn this thing around. Mm-hmm. And Jaden Daniels, dude, it's so fun to watch. So I'm trying to not throw my hate on him, but I'm also trying to see them lose some freaking games. And I don't want to crown Baltimore Ravens as the best team in the NFL because we know what happens every time someone says that. But if they continue on the path that they're on, man, Derrick Henry is a great fit on this offense. And he just took that game over last
Yeah.
week. And as when he has that type of game where he gets those multiple carries, it just wears the defenses down. And then late, cats are making
Boom.
business decisions, dude. And Lamar's actually throwing the ball pretty well. And if you can limit how many times that dude needs to throw it, then that is just money. They it looked like they were dead to rights against those Bengals, and they found a way to win that game. That's different than what we've seen out of these Ravens the last couple of years. They find a way to lose those games. They won this one. They keep Cincy down. They keep that momentum going. So this will be an interesting test to see how these teams match up, because I do think the Ravens are legit, and part of it is the schedule so far for the Commanders, but let's see what happens on Sunday. It's going to be a fun game, though, either way.
Yeah, you didn't mention, Casey, how awesome the tight end for the Ravens performed. My fantasy guy. Oh wait, no, it
Likely?
wasn't my
Isaiah
fantasy
Likely?
guy. It was it was the other two tight ends. Not my fantasy guy. He did have his best game of the season, but the other guys scored the touchdowns.
As soon as you sit Andrews on the bench, bro, that's when it takes
Ooh, he's
off.
going off. No question about it. All right. My fantasy woes. No, I'm moving on. Okay.
Yeah.
Up next, it's the Cleveland Browns at the Philadelphia Eagles. Casey, is this a game? Are we compelled to watch this because it's an NFL game?
Yeah, we will watch because we're sick like that. But how much longer do the Browns need to see the Deshaun Watson experiment? It's a complete failure. It's a waste of $260 million, whatever it was. You got Jameis Winston there. You're going to lose this team sooner than later.
Yep.
It's just there's too much good pieces on this team for it to be struggling like it is. You got a pretty sound defense. You got Nick Chubb coming back. You're getting all these players on the offensive side disgruntled. What's the harm in bringing Jameis in and seeing what he can do? He keeps that good positive energy on the sideline. So it might be time to make that switch. And then you flip it over to these Philadelphia Eagles. Like, if you go back to last season, they're doing way more losing than they are winning. Jalen Hurts is turning the ball over quite a bit. Him and Sirianni, every week we're hearing a little more of that discourse percolating there. So I think there is absolutely something to it. And you have all these big names on the defense, and so far it's not working. They're coming out to buy, so maybe we see something improve with them. But if Deshaun plays, I'm calling this an easy win for the Eagles, man. It's it's all bad with the Brownies right now.
And both of these teams cannot afford to take a loss in this game. So it's high. The stakes are high. I did hear, Casey, that the amount of times that Deshaun Watson is getting sacked is on pace to absolutely crush the record set by the Texans in their inaugural
David
season
Carr.
with David Carr, who I believe got sacked 76 times. I think Deshaun's on pace for 88 sacks. He is getting pummeled back there.
Yeah, I mean, get him out, let him watch. He's obviously not. It
He
can't
got
be that
sacked
nobody's
a ton
open.
in when he was a Texan. He got sacked a ton too, but he countered that with a lot of big plays. Now he's just a sack machine.
Yeah, and an interception machine and a fumble machine. But other than that, sound investment.
Right. Worth the money.
Yeah. Oh, who did they have the number 1 overall draft a couple years ago? Oh yeah, Baker Mayfield. That's right. Okay, moving on. That's enough talking about the stupid Browns. Up next, we have the Houston Texans at the New England Patriots. The Texans are 7-point favorites. And Dave, may we see a new quarterback in New England?
Ooh, well, I see what you did there, sliding that in there. Not sure what the case is there. Let's get it started with the Texans sitting at 4-1, coming away victorious last week. Was a huge win in the AFC against the Bills. Interestingly, and this is interesting, I just happened to notice, with 4 close wins and 1 blowout loss, they're actually minus 12 in the point differential, which is very odd for a 4-1 squad. But unfortunately, the Texans, like we mentioned earlier, put Nico Collins on injured reserve Wednesday. He leads the league in receiving yards, so that's an enormous loss. They're still without Joe Mixon. His backup, Damian Pierce, limited in practice as he works his way back from the hammy that he's been working with. They have 3 starting offensive linemen that are sitting out of practice this week, so they are banged up. But good news, they're playing this Patriots squad, Casey, that's just 1-4, losing their fourth game last week there to the Dolphins. And the Patriots defense, they may be decent enough to keep this game close for a while, but the offense is second to last in both yards and points scored, and last in passing, eighth in rushing the football. The only thing they can do really is run the ball a little bit. It's just too one-dimensional.
Yeah.
They don't threaten anybody with the passing game, and I don't know. Is it time to see
Yeah, Drake
Drake May?
May will play. Drake May will play. And you mentioned Ramondre Stevenson's probably out. So and
Ugh.
Antonio Gibson's going to get to start there. And Dave, you want to guess who has Joe Mixon in fantasy? Any?
Well, I know it's not me, so it must be you.
It is.
Oh, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
All right, moving along. It is the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans, and the Colts on the road are favored by 1 in this battle.
Yeah, dude, Joe Flacco has breathed some life into this thing. I don't know what the status of Anthony Richardson is, but
It better be he's still hurt.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And now without Pittman in there, and the Colts last week, they would have won that game. It's the stupid reverse rule when your toe is in, but the heel hits the line. Even though the toe came in and the heel came, that would have given them the win over the Jags. But no, that's out of bounds. So that's a brutal loss there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, these Colts are looking a little bit different. And Tennessee, man, Will Levis is. I don't know if he's back for this one. Mason Rudolph seemed to kind of give this team a spark. They blew out the Dolphins on Monday night a couple of weeks ago. So with that division as it is, why don't we go ahead and stay with Mason Rudolph? I don't know what the brass there with the Titans are going, but I think Levis needs to watch a little bit before it's just.
Yeah, it does seem like Mason Rudolph stabilized that offense and eliminated the catastrophic mistake that was being dished up by Levis there.
We know they would have at least one more win without those catastrophic mistakes. Probably they might be sitting at 3-1 instead. So.
Yeah, and it almost seems like they're letting the season slip away. They have to make some smart decisions there. All right, moving on. It's the Arizona Cardinals at the Green Bay Packers. Packers at home are favored by 5.5.
And last week, Dave, when we did the show, we were frustrated with these Cardinals because they got blown out in a game that against the Commandos. And then last week, what did they do? It looks like they're getting blown out again, but they come all the way back and beat those 49ers. I don't know what to think of this team. They can beat anybody and they can lose to anybody.
The cardiac
Kyler, though,
cards
is super exciting, man. That dude is so fun to watch. So they need to, I think, maybe cater to that a little bit more. But it was really the defense shutting those Niners out in the second half of that game, getting that win. It's going to be tough going on the road again. But if they could do it in San Fran, maybe they can do it in Green Bay.
Yeah, speaking of Green Bay, the Packers enter the game at 3-2, following a win in LA against our Rams. Jordan Love seemed to be fully recovered from that knee injury that he suffered in week 1. Tossed 2 touchdowns, both to Tucker Kraft, as we mentioned earlier.
3 touchdowns if you count the interception in the back of the end zone, bro. Come on, dude.
Oh, wow. That's right. And Josh Jacobs ran for a score, though, as well in this one. The Pack have been productive offensively, even when they had Malik Willis in the game. They actually won both of those games when he was at the helm there. They have the 3rd best running attack and the 5th best offense in the NFL right now. So getting it done, playing physical football. This game really could end up a shootout, actually, with the way both of these offenses can play.
Pretty sexy, and that's a big time NFC matchup over there. So we shall see what happens. All right, Dave. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Las Vegas Raiders, and those Steelers are 3-point favorites on the road, although the Steelers never play on the road. It's always a pro Steeler crowd, no matter where they're at.
Good luck. Las Vegas is going to find that out. The Raiders are usually taking over SoFi against my Chargers. Well, they're going to get a little taste of their own medicine, aren't they? Let's talk the Steelers first. 3-2, came up short on Sunday Night Football to your Cowboys, Casey, dropping their 2nd game of the season. That was a good football game. As you know, came down to the wire right there at the end. The Steelers, of course, have a formula for success that does include stellar play from their defense. They're 8th in yards given up, 3rd in points given up, and 5th versus the run. So they play a really strong, solid brand of defense. I'll get to the turnovers as my button-up point here. But the Raiders are 2-3 coming off that blowout loss to the Broncos. Raiders had an early lead and looked to increase it when Gardner Minshew tossed that pick six that went the length of the field to Patrick Surtain. Raiders never recovered from that. They gave up 34 unanswered points from that point on. Minshew was eventually benched in favor of second-year quarterback Aiden O'Connell. Not sure who's going ahead.
O'Connell's going to start this one too.
Okay, I was hearing they were playing it out in practice to see who it was. So, okay, it's going to be O'Connell then. I think that's the direction they should go.
Mm-hmm.
No Christian Wilkins, though, as we mentioned earlier in the injury thing. He's out, and no trade yet for Devontae Adams, and some piece coming back that could maybe help them. Here's the interesting note I foreshadowed on the turnovers. Steelers +4. Really, really good at getting the ball and taking the ball away and keeping the ball. Raiders -7. That's tied for worst in the league. So look for turnovers to make the difference here. They probably will. The Raiders obviously can't afford to turn the ball over, and the Steelers are like to take it.
Aiden O'Connell, meet Mr. TJ Watt.
The Steelers are banged up a little bit, but
oh yeah,
they always put it together. They always coach the guys up. So expect a solid Steeler performance.
All right, let's go ahead and keep this thing in the AFC West, David. It's our Los Angeles Chargers at the Denver Broncos, and the Chargers are 3-point favorites in this thing on the road.
Well, I hope Vegas knows what the hell they're talking about this time. I am impressed by that particular stat. The Chargers started the season 2-0, but dropped 2 straight to Pittsburgh and Kansas City, mind you, and they've just coming off their bye now. So hopefully that's going to help them because they've had a ton of impactful injuries early, and that bye might be just what they need to get some of their guys back and make some of the adjustments that they need sort of for a new offensive scheme, a new defensive scheme, a lot of newer players on the squad. Obviously, the main guys to lose were the tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. But Herbert's been doing the high ankle sprain. They didn't have Derwin James last week. He'll be back. That was a suspension. Bosa, as usual, dinged up. But moving forward, the Chargers defense has been really good this year. 5th in total yards, 10th versus the pass, 6th versus run, and number 1 in points given up at just 12.5 per game. Here's the unfortunate thing. Denver's defense is also awesome. They're number 2 in points given up at just 14.6. So the Bolts have got to try and eke out some offense a bit against that tough defense. Here's the problem, though. Chargers haven't won in Denver. They've lost 5 straight. And so that means Herbert has never beaten the Broncos in Denver. They've also lost on the road, the Chargers, to the Broncos, 10 of the last 11. 5, and then they won 1, and then 5 more before that. 10 of the last 11. So the Broncos also are a blitz crazy team, and the Chargers O-line, I don't know who they're going to put out there right now. I don't know which guys are coming back and who's going to be where. It's going to be a real challenge for the Chargers O-line.
Yeah, you mentioned that Broncos defense, dude. 3 sacks last week, 3 turnovers created, the pick 6 by Pat Surtain.
Yeah.
They are a strong unit, and they play even tougher at home. And you just mentioned how the Chargers have had their struggles in Denver. And as far as struggling, Bo Nix kind of seems that he's figuring this out. You got a couple former Oregon Ducks doing battle there, so it'll be interesting to see. But every week he kind of pieces it together. But this dude had 50-plus starts in college, dude. It makes you so much more prepared for the NFL. And I like to see him on the sideline giving Peyton a little bit of the business. Remember last year when he talked down to Russell Wilson, Bo Nix said, I'm not taking that. So that's good moxie to see out of your quarterback. You see him fired up. And each week this Broncos team continues to improve, and they dismantled those Raiders. So I would be a little bit worried about that defensive pressure that they're going to put on your Chargers. But, these divisional games, they are grimy. So you really never know what's going to happen until they get out there and play them. But it's going to be a fun game.
It is. I'm not feeling super confident about this one, unfortunately. But we're coming off the bye.
Yeah. That's good.
All right. Up next is the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons on the road are favored by 5.5.
Yeah, and as much as it seemed like Andy Dalton was playing so much better than Bryce Young, maybe that's gone away because the Panthers are not looking like a strong football team, and it's getting to the point where they might want to start trading off some of these pieces.
Mhm.
They're not going to compete for anything this year, so maybe you stack that to kind of help Bryce Young moving forward. So we'll see how much longer they go with Dalton here, but this is a total winnable game for these guys. Atlanta, man, they just keep it in a one-score game, and we'll come back and figure out a way to beat you. And that's exactly what they did against the Bucks. They just kind of hung around. We thought it was over when Cousins threw that late interception, but they got bailed out and got one more opportunity, and they made them pay for it, kicking that long field goal to steal the win. So I love the evolution of this Falcons offense. It's really coming together, getting some dynamic pieces. Darnell Mooney as that number
Really
2.
been playing well.
Yeah, again, and Drake London, dude. If this guy continues to ascend like he has,
Yeah.
I the sky's the limit for them. Big, long, fast, huge catch radius, and we're starting to see Kyle Pitts get involved in this
Mhm.
offense as well. And the 1-2 with Algier and Bijan Robinson is a deadly
Yeah.
combination. So Falcons, can they keep stealing these wins and then actually put some games together where they just put a team away? They're going to be something to deal with. So very tight at the top of that division, getting that huge win over the Bucks, kind of a mini bye week, playing on Thursday night, a little extra rest for these guys. So this should be a game that the Falcons handle their biz, but it's the
Yeah.
NFL.
Right. It is the NFL. So, but like you said, this one, the Falcons have no business going even on the road to Carolina and dropping this game. This
Mm-mm.
one, they got a notch as a W.
All right. Oh, baby. Come on. Come get with me now.
Oh yeah.
The Detroit Rock City Lions at my Dallas Cowboys, and the Lions are 3.5-point favorites on the road.
Yeah. This Lions team is coming off that bye. They're sitting at 3-1, feeling pretty good. But that was an impressive win against Seattle. And last time, I got to tell you, Casey, and I think maybe I'll throw out everything. Those black unis, I mean,
Oh,
those darks, baby. Do I need to
so
talk about
sweet,
any
dude. Oh,
players or stats or anything?
no,
They were looking so sweet. I
love
got carried
that.
away so much previewing their last game. I forgot to actually talk about them. My apologies, Lions fans. But Jared Goff was damn near perfect. In fact, 18 of 18 for 292 and 2 touchdowns, passer rating of 155.8. Amon Ra also pretty good, throwing a touchdown pass, 1 for 1 for a TD there. How about Gibbs and Montgomery? And this
Yeah.
is sort of their bread and butter right here. These dudes, the meat and potatoes of this squad. Going for a combined rushing and receiving, 158 yards and 3 touchdowns. So those dudes are just dynamic, running the football and receiving the football too. On the season, Lions number 3 in offensive yards and 7th best in scoring at 26 points a game. They are both in top 7 in both run and pass, so nicely balanced. And defensively, they give up just 20.5 points a game. That's 10th best.
Oh,
This is going to be a challenge for your Cowboys, Casey, especially if they can take advantage of that Cowboys defense against the run that has had its struggles.
yeah, and they were much better on Sunday
Yes.
night against the Steelers. Held Najee to 3.4, whatever it was per carry.
Right.
So that's putting together a couple of good weeks of playing some better run defense. Lost rookie Nealon. He was supposed to step in because Micah was out, and obviously Tank Lawrence is out. He gets hurt just a few plays into the game, but the defense found a way to get it done. You worry about coming off of playing the Steelers. It's such a physical game. Will
Yeah.
that take its toll on the following week? But love the way that the defense bowed up. Supposed to get Deron Bland back for this one, and we might get Carson back as well. So getting some help in the secondary, definitely going to need it against these Lions, especially the way Jamison Williams has been playing. This guy is a superstar in the making, and I got nightmares about how fast this guy is, and they use him in a lot of creative ways. So Detroit can finesse you over the top, and they can also run it down your damn throat too. Now flip it over to these Cowboys. Tyler Guyton got hurt in this game. So what they did is they kicked Tyler Smith out and brought in Bass at left guard. And it felt like the production had an uptick. Then I think Guyton's long term is great. This guy's a stud. He's 20 years old. He's not been playing tackle that long. Was a right tackle at OU, moving to left. he's had a couple tough games, but they've gone up against some of the best defensive ends in the league. So
Yeah.
it is a tough transition, but it might do him good to sit and kind of take the swing tackle role. When someone comes in, get him in there, maybe even try him at right tackle, because Terrence Steele's still kind of working back from that injury. He's not gotten back to where he was before, but you could feel a difference in that O-line once they made the change and kicked out there. So it might be a wait and see approach there. And Jalen Tolbert is starting to emerge too. Had the game-winning touchdown. Dak goes down there. He can't win a big game, can't do it on the road against a tough team. Last play of the game, fourth down, goes in there and throws the game-winning touchdown. So I don't need to hear this Dak slander anymore, but it also helps when you can get a contribution from the running game, and that's really what the shuffling of the O-line did. They kind of changed the blocking scheme because it just wasn't working at the beginning of the game, but also they're giving Dowdle the opportunity. He's got to be the workhorse. I know Zeke is not happy with his role, but football ain't about feelings. It's meritocracy. You earn what you get, and Dowdle has earned more reps there. Jake Ferguson at tight end is obviously a stud on the making, and he's rising too. This is going to be a damn tough game, and Detroit is still salty about the 2-point conversion fiasco at the end of last year, but it's been a while since these Lions have beat us. So this is a good measuring stick for the Cowboys. They can find a way to win this game, Dave, and then get into the bye week and try to get a little healthy, and then go play that banged up San Francisco team. This could be a couple weeks of redemption for the Cowboys, and then the narrative will shift, although I hate it when it does. But for me personally, I'd love to see them grime out this win like they did in Pittsburgh, and then get into the bye week and go from help. So we'll see if that can carry over.
Well, with your Cowboy, it's only extremes, Casey, with
the
boys. They're either the worst team in the league or they're going to the Super Bowl, and they're going to crush whoever's in front of them. This is a heck of an opponent. If they can find a way to get this W, I don't care how, this will be an impressive win for your Cowboys, and that'll show they're heading in the right direction. Even if they take a loss in this one, but play a respectable football game, because the Lions are obviously everybody's darling still right now.
Totally. And the Cowboys had won 16 in a row at home, not counting, before the playoff off to Green Bay, and they haven't won at home so far this year. So this would be a good game to start getting that dub. Yeah. But hey, undefeated on the road. So there's something to be said for that. All right, Dave. Did this game ever? I don't know. It is the Cincinnati Bengals at the New York Giants, and the Bengals are 3.5-point favorites on the road.
Yeah. All right. The Bengals are 1-4, but they seem like a very dangerous one-win team to me. They lost, obviously, in overtime to the Ravens in a game that felt like they should have won last week. They just weren't aggressive enough down there late, settling for that 50-plus long field goal. We say it all the time while we're watching. You don't settle for a long field goal. Get into a chip shot range before you start playing conservatively. They got conservative too soon. They missed that field goal. That gave Baltimore a chance to steal the game. They did. And that's a shame, because the Bengals played well enough to win that football game and shouldn't be at 1-4 right now. Other losses are Kansas City and Washington. Both are hot teams right now. Burrow last week, 392, 5 touchdowns, and we talked about that in the thing, but 137 passer rating. So Chase, 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. Higgins, 83 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Ooh.
Overall, the offense is 6th in passing, but just 28th rushing the football, and that's kind of been an issue for them.
And now Moss is hurt.
Yeah, and now Moss is hurt. So don't look for them to be able to run, but they're going to have to hang it up on Burrow's shoulders and see what his arm can do with those talented receivers. Other side of the football, though, Giants 2-3 coming off their most impressive game that I can even remember with that win against the Seahawks, even though they started the game giving up a 102-yard fumble recovery that went all the way back for the opening score of that game, dropped them into a 7-0 hole. It looked like they were going to take the lead, and they ended up, now they're down by 7. Late in the game, though, you talked about it briefly, though. Seattle tried that for what was going to be a 47-yard field goal to tie the game. Giants blocked that thing, run it back for a touchdown, slam the door, and take away my last strike in 3 strikes. But that's just something else on the side. But this is going to be interesting, though, to see if these Giants can ride that momentum, because they really put together a game where they absolutely kind of dominated, really, that Seahawks squad, even though they kind of it didn't look that way necessarily. if you didn't watch the game, but they really they put it to them. They really played them an excellent football game. So look for this Giants team to put up a decent fight. I mean, this is a 1-4 squad versus 2-3 squad. This is going to be a good football game.
Yeah, and the Giants, when they win, they do it ugly, and when
Yeah,
they lose, they do it even uglier. So don't know what
yeah,
to expect, but that is a desperate Bengals team you mentioned, and they
that's the
might
danger.
should have had a couple more wins in this, but I could see them making a move. Joe Shiesty gets healthy, anything is possible, but that run game is not. They're missing Joe Mixon, although he's out. So
Yeah.
there's that.
All right, moving on to Monday Night Football. Well, we have the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets, and the Bills on the road are favored by 2.5. Obviously, there's turmoil at the airport where the Jets are landing at this point.
Oh, I like what you did there, dude. And that flight might be delayed just a little bit. But, dude,
Ooh.
let's go back to these Bills. Josh Allen has obviously not played well the last couple weeks. But Sean McDermott, it is inexcusable to try to pass down there. Late in that game against the Texans, they fight to get back in there. You get it tied. We can get this thing to overtime. You're inside
Yeah,
your 5-yard line with like 30 seconds left, and you throw the ball 3 times. Like, I don't know what the thought process
nonsense.
was, what the upside to doing that was. I mean, you're going to have to get a blown coverage for it to even matter because you're not going to get it down the field. Run the ball, make them use their timeouts, and get this damn thing to overtime. It's what the hell is going on? I mean,
Yeah,
it's not even a Pop Warner coach will
right.
make
It's
that
coaching
decision.
101. It's
There's no
basic.
upside.
No. And if you're going to pass it, it has to be an incredibly safe pass, essentially a handoff.
And James Cook have been playing good football. Run the damn
Real
rock
good
there.
football.
Get to overtime. They're inside their 5. Come on. They gave that game away. That is a brutal loss. And is
Garbage.
right on the coach. At least he said that was my bad, but someone's got to get in his ear. Coach, are you sure you want to give this game away? We might need this. This is an AFC game. We might have to come back here instead of hosting these guys. So I could not believe what I was seeing. It made no sense to me. There's just no sense to
Yeah, well,
that.
you got a
But
defensive minded head coach and an offensive coordinator. Where's the disconnect there?
yeah. So that's one that might cost these guys down the road. And then you flip it over to the Jets. We talked to this about the top of the show. They got rid of Saleh there. I'm not sure that was the problem there. It seemed like there might be some politics floating around there, but you make that move, fire the coach, you bring in the new guy. That's usually good for something, but you're meeting a
Right.
desperate Buffalo team that's got to get a win after dropping a couple. The Jets traditionally play them tough, but I think you lost the opportunity to really get that mojo. I mean, if they win, I'll come out and be, all right, they won. It shuts me up, but I don't. I wouldn't have wasted it right here. I wouldn't have, canned Salah right now either. So, not sure what the level of dysfunction with the Jets are, but they're obviously not performing at the level they should be. But that being said, they're 2-3. They win this game. Both these teams are 3-3.
Yeah.
Who's in the AFC besides the Chiefs that is going to be there, man? All these other teams, everybody's fighting to get up there. Maybe
And speaking
Baltimore too,
of the
but
division, the Dolphins have
they're not
slid
going
back.
anywhere, dude.
Right. And you've got
Patriots, no.
so here, this is a crucial game to fire your coach 3, 4, 5 days before this football game. And it's almost like you're giving the team a punch in the gut.
Yeah. I can't imagine any of the defense wanted Salah gone. If they're looking at anything, they're looking at Buddy Hackett over there and be like, bro, this is a clown show, this offense.
Yeah. And word was, of course, that he was getting demoted by Salah, whether that had a role in the whole
I wonder if
firing.
someone came and advocated for him and then Salah got fired instead of the OC getting fired. I don't know who had the power there to do that. I mean, they would deny that they wield that much power, but they deny a lot of stuff.
Yes. Okay.
All
Very
right.
interesting game.
Yeah, and that's a nice one to wrap week 6 up with. But Dave, got to let the peoples know so many ways to check out the Football Dudes, the Trend Zone, which you're listening to right now, available for subscription on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever the hell you get your podcast, people.
Yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Instagram and Facebook, follow us on X at Football Dudes LA, and make sure you tag us across all social media platforms where I do that. Thanks.
And while you're out there surfing the interwebs, go ahead and bookmark footballdudes.com. Hey, I actually did that. It was pretty good. Backwards. You got to subscribe to the YouTube channel to
That
see
was
the
backwards.
magic that was. So get it done, people. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of the Trend Zone. For Dave, I'm Casey. We are not the suits that talk football. We are the dudes that know football. Enjoy the games, people. We are out of here.